Hello and welcome back. In this lesson, we're going to start optimizing our script and making it more dynamic by adding variables. So let's get started. Now, so far, we've hard-coded pretty much everything. So now it's time to modify that to give us some flexibility so that we can adjust things easily without having to fish through every single attribute here, and instead being able to go to one file and modify what we need there. For instance, probably one of the things we're going to modify the most is the type of OS we're using. So since, for instance, I use Mac, Windows, and Linux quite frequently, there's a good chance I'm going to want to be able to modify which type of instance I'm using on the fly. So let's go ahead and take a look at that. Now, first of all, what I want to do is I want to use interpolation syntax to specify a variable here. Now, basically that variable will be calculated whenever we apply our script. So I'm going to use interpolation syntax, which I've mentioned before, and basically that's going to be a $sign and two curly braces just like that. So whatever happens here is going to be calculated dynamically whenever we run our script. So let's go ahead and name this variable. We'll call it var.host_os. So anywhere we need a variable, you specify it with var.variableName, just like so. So now if I choose Windows, then it will be Windows-ssh-config, Linux, Linux-ssh-config, just like so. So now what we need to do is we need to initialize this variable and specify that, hey, we've got a variable that we're going to need to define. And to do that, we could either do it here in line in the main.tf, or what I prefer to do, and most everyone, is to create a new file for it. So I'm going to create a variables.tf file. Once again, it's analyzed just like any other TF file. It's all run at the same time, but this will just make sure that it's easier to find our variables when we need them. Now you can take a look here at the input variables documentation. Declaring an input variable is actually fairly straightforward. You use the variable name, and then within braces, you give it a type, and you can also give it a default. Now, the type is not necessarily required, but it is strongly recommended so that your other DevOps coworkers don't lose their minds trying to figure out what type of variable is expected. So let's head back over here, and let's go ahead and build this. So it's going to be a variable, once again, host_os. Then we'll use our curly braces, and we'll just provide a type, and that type equals string. We're not going to bother with a default yet, but we'll get to it. So now that we've done that, let's actually go ahead and perform a Terraform destroy auto approve. And as you can see here, it's actually asking for this variable to be defined now. So keep that in mind. Anytime you add a new variable, any destroy, apply, or plan operation is going to require that you define those variables. And we'll look at other ways to define them so that we don't have it popping up every time here from the command line. But for right now, we can just define it dynamically. So let's just go ahead, and I'm going to say Windows. If you're on Mac or Linux, specify Linux. But again, nothing really matters now because nothing is running. So go ahead and destroy this infrastructure. Pause the video and come on back whenever it's destroyed. All right, so everything is destroyed here. And just to illustrate once again, if I run a Terraform plan, it is going to ask me for that variable. So if I type that in, then the plan will run. So keep that in mind. Again, if you have variables that are not set, a plan, apply, or destroy is going to ask for those variables. So if you're in automation, that can break your automation. But anyway, now that we've got this variable initialized and we've taken a look at kind of how to use a variable within a script, let's go ahead and mark this lesson complete. Come on back to the next one and let's continue the course.